I'll buy property by the sea, earn rental income and rent it out through a management company. That's what they thought. There are quite a few people like that whom I've seen personally. I personally know people who, instead of earning rental income, ended up still owing money for utilities and complex maintenance. Let me tell you how it works. The thing is, if you come here and buy an apartment, even in a comfort class complex, even if it looks nice, the first thing you need to know is that you'll have mandatory fees for the maintenance of the complex, for cleaning and upkeep. On average, this ranges from $1 to $2 per square meter of the area you purchased. You will be required to pay this fee. And in fact, it exists in any decent complex. This fee is actually necessary if the complex is being properly maintained. Most of them do take care of maintenance after all. Maybe some don't do it as well as you'd like, but it works in some way. For example, in the economy segment, there is no such fee at all here. And no matter which economy project you buy here, sooner or later, after a year, 2 or 3, it will turn into a shabby, moldy building that no one takes care of, no one washes, cleans, or repaints. In short, everything that needs to be done isn't done, and that's why it turns into housing that's uncomfortable to live in. I've described how this happens and what the downsides are in a separate article. Here's the link right here. Be sure to read it, it will be useful for you. But if we're talking about the comfort segment and more or less decent housing, then it has a maintenance fee and it's cleaned and washed. So at least it looks presentable. Let's say you arrive and decide to rent out this property through a management company. How is this going to work? It's going to work rather poorly. Why? Because almost all the management companies here are quite new, you see, and they still haven't realized that in order to earn well in the long run, you need to keep the client satisfied, right? What global hotel brands have understood, what other large companies operating in this market, well, not just this market, but globally, have already figured out and grown into multi-billion-dollar businesses, the younger ones here still don't get. The young companies here, the whole market here is young, and the management companies are young too. They're just chasing quick profits. Yes. So their main goal is to make as much money as possible, regardless of the results you get. Yes, for you this comes with a whole range of downsides and disadvantages. The first drawback is that in their pursuit of profit and making as much money as possible, they naturally won't show you the actual number of days your apartment was rented out. In other words, they'll rent it out more often, but show you less and do everything they can to cut your income. And believe me, this happens in almost 100% of cases if you rent through some local management company. So what should you do? The main thing, of course, is to find a person you can trust, someone who knows how to do this and does it at least reasonably well. Such specialists can, in principle, be found, but first of all, there are very few of them here, and secondly, you'll have to put in some effort to find them. The second factor, why most real estate will still have low profitability, apart from the first factor, is that rental prices are quite low. Yes, that is, in the off-season, most properties are either left empty or rented out very cheaply, and in the season it's about $30 to $50 per day. But these 4 months of the season, of course, can't cover the annual profitability, so that you would have at least a 10 to 15% annual return, right? And this is quite a serious factor. What is the way out of this situation? Well, there aren't many solutions here. That's the first thing. But of course, you should choose those properties that for certain reasons can be rented out for more than the others. There are such properties on the market, even though there aren't many of them. That's it. And secondly, of course, it's to invest in those properties that have an off-balance value, which for some reason not only rent for more, but also sell for more. This way, you'll have a good combined income, both from the appreciation in value and from rental returns. Again, there are few such properties. If you're interested, come to me. I'll explain everything in detail, show you and share a lot more useful information with you. What happens if you ignore these basic, simple rules? Again, you'll often end up in strategies that don't deliver the returns you expect. Never mind that they don't bring in returns. It will also be difficult for you to exit these projects, yes. This is also a particular problem with low margin or low yield properties. They're easy to buy, but getting rid of them is quite difficult. So really, what's the point? There's simply no sense in it. Overall, if you want to achieve different results than everyone else, not just in real estate, but in any field, you need to do something different. Do something that others aren't doing, right? In other words, use different strategies that naturally bring different results simply because they are different. I think you'll be interested to check out the guide on the 9 most popular residential complexes, including those popular for investment, where a huge number of people are putting their money. There are thousands, even tens of thousands of real estate transactions in these complexes. And I've outlined the pros and cons of each of these complexes, as well as the pros and cons of the strategies. Even just by reading a single file, you'll gain a lot of clarity about the real estate market, about those strategies, and many other important nuances for investments.